to order.
And first order of business is that I'm going to resign as secretary effective this morning. I'm done putting that much time and energy and work into it. I write them and then Karen gets to rewrite them, and so the whole thing is just like crazy. So I'm done. Patience level gone. I'm still here, but I'm not mad. I'm just done.
You did very well.
So you
Definitely appreciate your work.
Yeah, you've done this.
It's
a little bit years.
It's a skill set that I know I don't have. So I guess what that does is it puts us on the first order of business of under other business, we're gonna have to elect a new secretary. So we'll add that to our agenda. We'll move forward. We need to have somebody that is willing to take minutes at this time. Or if we can push the other business up with a approval to go ahead and take care of this first thing so we can get a secretary in place. So can I get a motion that we could vote on?
I move that we move other business up to take care of this agenda item.
I second that.
Okay, great. Is there anybody that's willing to put themselves out there to do this? And Connie's stepping away from the board. All right, are you going to be returning to the board?
I'm decided that it's kind of changed. Can I nominate Karen?
It's just for 2 meetings, really, because we'll be electing officers in January.
Would you
That's
be
something
willing
you'd
to
be willing to do? Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor of Karen being the secretary till the end of the season in January? It's been approved. All right, moving forward. The approval of the minutes from the previous board meeting. All right.
We made the changes to them with some suggestions from Karen. I went back and watched the meeting again and reworked all of the minutes. So
that's what these are.
yeah, these are reworked. Karen, I don't know where you are with that. I incorporated most of what you have. There's some things that I didn't put in, because they weren't mentioned at the meeting, so I didn't put them in.
So I think the only highlights that I think are necessary to just address, so that it speaks to minutes going forward. I had taken out those couple of sentences you had in the manager's report, only because they're in the manager's report. The data, that information is in the manager's report, and the whole point of us incorporating her report in the minutes is to not be redundant and write certain things in the minutes and omit, by any purpose or anything, but omit other information. So it was just a matter of take those 2 sentences out because they're in Kathy's report.
And I left them in because they were discussed in the meeting and kind of a highlight, basically, of her report.
Yeah, there we go.
So because they were highlights, you wanted them in, okay?
So do we want to approve the minutes as submitted by Karen Reed?
Well, then there's one other last thing that is of importance, and that's any other business. And with respect to when we're going to, when Kathy read that email, and rather than paraphrase, I think it would be probably more appropriate if we either quote Susan or we just attach the email.
That's true, we could do that. That works.
Yeah,
I like the attached email. That
I
way
do too. It is
easy.
just
it's clear that it's
exactly what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say, and I've sent a new version of, I copied you and Kathy this morning of
Great.
that, just leaving that, or making it, basically the first part of this up to the, where he reached out to Susan Davis of Kingfield, Maine.
Mhm.
And then I put, and Kathy read the email, it is
See,
attached,
email
that was
attached.
provided to the board members, it is attached. So just for, and really it's, I want to make sure that everyone understands. It's not a nitpicking thing. It's not a personal attack. It's more of a, because of all of the research that was done for the grant and the discrepancy in information, the inaccuracies, was really difficult. I'm trying to preserve things so that they're as actual and consistent as possible. And that's really my focus with being really meticulous about documenting things.
It makes it easier for people coming
It
behind
is,
us
yeah.
or in front of us, however you want to put
Right.
it.
It depends on your perspective.
Depends on how you look at it. So,
It's really more from that point. So if that's okay.
Yeah. I think that's a very good suggestion, Karen. So we'll attach the email.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll move we accept the minutes as presented with that caveat that the email be attached.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving forward. House managers report, and Kathy is not feeling well today, so.
I mean, what is there?
Okay,
What you see is what you get.
I was on it.
I know she's not here to answer, and I don't know if Ben you could answer, but I have a couple, some questions.
You can try.
Okay.
I can try.
All right. Well, I don't know, it's nice that she's added one new booklet. I wanted to know how it was selected, how many members are in the club, how many meetings they have per month, if they do any community service or outreach or benefit focus on philanthropy for the community. So that was something that, yeah, probably you wouldn't know about. But again, the purpose behind that, and everything I do is with purpose, so I just want you to know it's nothing, never any kind of personal attack. The purpose behind that is that for future grant writing, we want to diversify the clubs that meet here as much as possible, and that includes not just what they do for their own club, but what they do for the community, because that does go nicely in presenting a reason, a very justified reason why they should invest in our project.
Is there any other questions?
Yeah, I was going to ask, when will the selections for the bids be done? Because obviously the
I think we have that as a.
Just decided to decide.
It is a business item right under the grants.
okay, good. And then are Carrie and Ozzy coming to another board meeting to present anything? Because have we?
There's no plan for that at this moment.
Okay,
Until they have anything to present, I don't think we have them on.
okay, all right.
Is there anything else?
I'll probably just table this for next month, just the breakdown of events. I know we keep having tours, open houses, and Art Walk ice cream and under functions, but we also have it separated, and open houses and tours might be more effective for, again, future grant writing if we have those numbers separated out. So,
Okay. Well, that's something to consider, and honestly, for clarification, when we go forward to present to City Council, I would like to make sure that those numbers are really clear and concise so that we can speak to that. But that's something that we're still working on. So, again, that's on moving forward then from the House Manager's report.
one last thing.
One last thing, I'm sorry.
Because we have revenues year-to-date at 140,000 and expenses year-to-date at 118,000. That means approximately 22,000 is being put into the Callahan House Fund. And Ben, do you know about that, or
The funds aren't done until, final until the
And-
far into 2023.
Right.
And she does have some bookings that are set for this year where they put outlays out, you know, and haven't gotten all the money in. So this number is still a moving target,
Right,
and it's not final by any stretch.
right,
So-
but
That's
just
how I would,
So
year
they're
to
moving
date,
the
that's looking like, at least that is going into the fund, right?
They're operating in the black. It's doing fine. And it's booking things, and she said there was a wedding coming up in the winter, which was odd, you know,
Unusual.
that type of
Yeah.
thing, so.
We'll take it though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, definitely. Yeah, so there's outlays that haven't been received yet because that wedding hasn't happened. So there, as far as I'm aware, it's operating in the black. The amount of the black is not gonna be finalized until spring.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, the purpose behind my question there is if for some reason, because we're concerned about the grant funds not potentially covering all of the projects,
Should
if
we
for
be
some
looking
reason
at
we're
fundraising?
needing additional funding, then either we have that in the Callahan House Fund, because that is the purpose of the fund to help provide preservation of the house. And then also for additional funds that we have then to match for another grant.
I
if we
would,
need.
yeah, I would say at this moment that
That's
that's
the
putting
reason.
the cart before the horse, and we don't even have the bid yet awarded. So, I mean, there's so many unknowns at this point, and those are excellent questions. It's probably just further downstream, to be focusing or nervous about it at this time.
Right, only because it was raised when Carrie and Ozzy were here that the bids may come in higher than our grant amount would provide. So I was asking, hey, we need to double check and make sure we.
I understand where you're coming, Karen. I think we're trying to have some forethought ourselves to kind of, and it's all speculation. It is, but if we have, knowing that the bids are probably going to be higher, then that gives us the chance to get ahead of it and to plan and try to come up with some positive options. So we have a flexibility in that way too. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions in regards to the status of the grant? Okay, we're gonna move forward to the Christmas house decorating on the 14th and luncheon. Exactly, does everybody know the time on that? Okay.
We're supposed to be here 3:30. Stay until 4.
Okay.
The decorating.
For decorating.
Oh, for decorating.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've got it out.
The decorating.
yeah, I'm on my calendar.
I was gonna
It's
say,
not-
so
that's a
that's it.
little late starting.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
9 a.m.
Yeah.
It's 9 a.m. And is there anything that are we thinking about? In the past, I know, we did the themed tree upstairs. Were we thinking of anything or repeating that? Or is there any suggestions that we have for the current status of how we'd like to decorate the trees in each room? Does anybody have ideas?
We already have all the decorations up there, so basically, unless we're gonna buy all new decorations.
No.
Well,
But
and last year I brought the storybook characters.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
that wasn't
from the
anymore.
tree
You wanted to
from-
bring more
No,
stuff.
it was upstairs in
Oh,
the Santa room.
yeah.
In the Santa
So
room.
are we gonna,
Yeah.
That's what Martin's asking.
are you willing to do that again, Connie?
I still have them.
Yeah.
I didn't get rid of them, so
And
I can bring
I
those.
graciously kind of asked, are you still willing to do that? I wasn't sure, or if you're willing to, if you want anybody to add pieces, or are you willing to just take that tree and, because she did such a beautiful job with it.
Oh, it's fun. And if y'all have the same things, storybook character kind of things, or teddy bears or whatever, that would be great too. But yeah,
Yeah, I had thought about bringing glass ones, but I'm thinking,
Oh, that's nice.
yeah.
because I have
Yeah,
great,
kids.
like Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan, and they're all handle in glass. But I think with kids up there, Santa, I'm gonna renege on that one.
I think you should renege on
Again,
that one.
I like yours are much more durable. But
Well, they are. I've got glass
That's appropriate.
too, but it just, it gets mingled a little bit when we're de-decorating and things, so that was where it got a little tricky. lately, so. If y'all don't mind.
No,
I don't
I
mind
think
either.
that would be very, very
I was looking at
gracious
the bags
of
the other day, I thought, okay, we'll have them ready if we need to.
you.
Right.
So basically,
So-
that's what I was asking. I know we have a pretty set tradition on what we do with certain trees, but with that one, Connie was very gracious to do that, and I didn't know if we were gonna do that again.
And it turned out
If y'all want to.
yes.
Oh, absolutely, that would be most appreciative, that's why it's on the agenda. And then for the luncheon, I wasn't sure exactly how we were doing that.
Kathy was gonna take orders.
Was she gonna take orders?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing, or were we gonna just brown bake it and bring it in and?
I think she was going to
She said
send
she
out
was-
an order for you guys to select who you wanted.
Panera.
I believe it was Panera.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We, maybe each of us individually email Kathy what we would request from Panera, because that's what she had said, hey, you need to tell
I
me
figured
what
she'd
you.
be sending out something to us before and then we'll.
Because I'm sure she's probably getting a set price of some kind. I'll just wait until she sets out an order, because obviously, I don't wanna be too much of a headache, just make it simple.
We'll touch base with her
Yeah.
and make sure
Okay,
in her not feeling well state.
Right.
remembers that.
Yeah.
And pretty
Well,
much everything
wait a
Panera has is
while.
doing.
Yeah.
it is, I don't think I've ever had any.
I don't think there's anything bad at all.
Yeah.
Anything.
Okay, on to, unless anybody else has any other comments on the Christmas decorating? Is everybody gonna wear their Santa hats? I just.
Or antlers.
Antlers or whatever decorative gear you have. Anyway, moving on to the Santa open house, or the open houses, 2022 Santa open house on December 2nd. Registration and.
Opening November 18th.
Okay.
It's the 18th. I said 18th, it's the 17th or the 18th, I'm pretty sure it's the 18th.
I think so.
It's right around the corner,
Yeah.
and we're just gonna wait and see how it goes.
It's all set to go, so you can look online at our, the registration thing, and you can read the whole thing and look at it, look at the times, and it just says if you click on it, the registration opens November 18th. We have it opening on, I believe it's Friday, because Constant Contact comes out on Thursday.
Thursday.
Uh-huh.
So we were trying to have people, be able to open it throughout the day,
Mhm.
and then register the next day, I
Wonderful.
think was the logic on that one.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. Okay, and then as far as staffing, I know that we're going to, Karen, you had said something about reaching out to past board members.
I haven't done that yet because I did not want there to be a feeling of expectation or anything like that, given that the board interviews have not yet occurred. So I didn't want to, we know of at least one and maybe a second prior board member who's applied, and I didn't want them to feel an obligation or that there was an expectation at
That
all.
they had to serve and
So
they weren't
I'll
allowed
have to
to.
wait until interviews.
Okay.
Well, and Kathy's been really generous at volunteering for some of Sam, who's one of our recreation staff members at her events. And so Sam has graciously offered to man the door, so that one, that leaves your knowledge of Callahan to be fully accessible to people in the building. And then she can just do the door admittance stuff to free you guys up.
Oh, that's nice, thank you.
That's
Thank you for knowing that.
Yeah.
For letting us know that.
That sounds awesome.
I've met Sam,
Yeah.
and I like her very much, she's very good. So I guess that what that does is it enables us to figure out how would we like to then staff it ourselves. I know we were assigned rooms and what last year. I'd like to do that now. So I'm gonna put it up to the board on how exactly we'd like to go ahead and staff this. In the past, we had a committee, but we didn't have a committee for this year. So how would we like to go ahead and staff the space? Any suggestions?
Do we like pick where we wanna be? Is that what you mean?
Well, I know that, unfortunately, because of last year, my mother passed away about this time, so
Right.
I wasn't here at the event, but I know that I had requested that I could be in the Santa room for a certain period of time. Didn't we switch off?
We rotated that.
And I think we should set that up so we have a rotation again. I think that would be good because that's a cool area to be in and witness all the joy of the kids and that stuff.
I like working the bridal area,
You
the
do?
bridal room. It's warmer.
It's
too
the
up
way
there.
to-
It's warmer.
And do you want to rotate or you don't care to?
I'm fine just in the bridal room because I go ahead and introduce the children to whoever's rotating in
Okay,
Santa's room.
okay.
Yeah, so that's fine.
So Janet's pick is the bridal.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and did you have any preference?
I like the parlor.
Okay. And you don't, do you care to rotate?
Doesn't matter to me. If you
Yeah,
want
I
me
don't
to.
care.
Only if you, okay, but you don't have to. If you like the parlor, let's put you there and then.
Yeah, I mean, if I get bored and want to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really, it doesn't bother me, but.
Okay. Karen?
It doesn't matter to me. I'll take the
Yeah.
music room.
Oh, music room?
Doesn't matter.
Music, library, either way.
Yeah,
I'm flexible.
I am too.
Okay, does anybody want to rotate? Or is it just?
And part of that is my husband has a medical procedure that's scheduled at 1:30 that day.
Okay.
So, and it's down in Lafayette, so I was like, okay, I didn't know that until we got our calendars together.
Okay.
So
So
I
if-
may be only here like at 4 or something, so if I can be the rover.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a good place to
Yeah.
put you, and then, and so when you can, and if it doesn't work, because we all have situations in our life that
Yeah.
come up, and it will
Yeah.
just go from there. Karen Cruz, did you have a preference where you want to be?
Choose.
I'd love to be in the Santa room. I love kids, and because I didn't get to experience that last year, I really would love to do that.
Okay, there you go.
If that's okay, not to be greedy or anything. Okay, so are we all set then? Is there any more discussions on open houses at this point?
Karen, which room are you going to be in?
I'll be in the foyer, 'cause that's the entry.
Okay. All right, moving forward to the house manager's pictures projects, 5 minutes. And the big thing was, I was gonna ask Kathy where we were on the ordering of the framing system. Do you know anything about it, Ben?
I do not have an update for that at this time.
Okay, so we'll move right ahead then. Past and present board member wall acknowledgement project. Have we heard anything more from the printer to do the backgrounds on that?
We don't have an update on that.
Okay.
They're getting closer to fully staffed in their organization of things, which is awesome.
Is this something that's really gonna be probably put off until the first of the year? Most likely, with all the season coming up and everything, that they won't get to it or
If
even
you
have a
need it
chance?
sooner, let me know the urgency of that, because we can send that out for pay.
No, I don't think we want to have to pay for that. I'm okay if we push it off, personally, unless anybody else. I am personally okay if we just push it off. I just am trying to get a mindset in my head. If this project, if they can't even look at it until the first of the year, fine. Then we're gonna put it off and we'll table it and we'll put it back on for discussion. You can talk about the project until January.
Right.
But if that's where you're coming from, I just need to know.
I'll reach back out. The things that I heard is that they believe it's very possible to come up very beautifully. The other thing they were wondering is if there's a time that you guys would like to do a reenactment of that scene and do a photograph from the same angle of this time frame. Obviously, we missed, I mean, it's a future vote because the garden is not where you'd want it to be for a letterhead. So she was thinking of those two options, either restore what was, which they can still do because they came across pretty nicely, and or recreate, or have both. you know, because you could see. how
I
you
like
to-
the idea of doing a historic one, but for the future reference, I think it would be great to have for future use, to have a more, what is everybody's opinion on that?
Can we clarify what is?
It's an image, the letter, well, maybe Karen, maybe you could explain it. But we're just talking about the letterhead, right? Right, which is a very decorative,
Right.
like a 4-inch tall
Yeah, it's a little beyond.
image. It's beyond
Yeah,
What
it's
we
a
letterhead.
little
think
beyond,
of as
right.
letterhead.
Yeah, it's a very, so
Exaggerated
our
letterhead.
choice is to use the original
They can,
Callahan or do a new one. And or if you wanted to recreate it, because it looks very photographic.
It does.
It
is.
It's very,
It's very,
Tom Callahan's letter to the board and to
Mhm.
the city when, after his visit, was on that stationery. And so
I
we
personally,
provided that for scanning and recreation.
It's like a photograph
it is
of
very
the
photographic.
postcard that they had with the Callahan House. It was, we have one of those postcards too.
You know, if we were gonna decide though, I'd have to see exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds beautiful.
It does, it sounds
And
beautiful.
it was, yeah, it was beautiful. It's in
And I love
color.
Story behind it.
personally, from the historic value,
Yeah.
I like to use the original.
Me too.
Simply because of what the house is and kind of how it, we as board members are custodials for that, and that's what it's representing. So I kind of, that's my viewpoint, but I just like him, I'm a very visual person. I like to see it. So I like the option, and you just, you threw another option out there that I'm like, ooh, I hadn't even thought that was possible, so.
Without seeing anything, my first choice would be to stay with the original.
Exactly, agree.
But, you know, and if it's gonna be a lot of work to come up with the option that we may not even want.
Yeah, that's.
And time and time's money, and I don't ever wanna waste anybody's time if it's not something we're gonna do. But it's nice to know that the option exists, isn't it?
Yes.
I have one other
Yeah.
comment or possibility is using the old one and then have a new parallel photograph, you know, from the same angle, basically, just side by side, you know, then and now kind of thing. And that was, and maybe in ovals or something, you know, just to make it less rectangular. But that was just something that I was thinking in terms of a letterhead type of thing. It would be interesting with the historic comparisons. That would be pretty simple.
That's neat, and the other aspect is, we want it to represent the house, but we don't wanna take away from the names of the people that have served, because that's really what it's what
Absolutely.
we're looking at is the people that have served. What do you think?
That was the intent to start, but for having the letterhead, I think that's a beautiful idea too. But for the wall acknowledgement, the historic.
I like the idea of the more historic one, but I do think for a letterhead, I think we would like to be using that as a letterhead to reach out. I think it
Just playing around with it.
it puts a nice, which brings up a whole nother subject, but the bottom line is it puts us at a nice, what's the term I'm looking for? Stamp of who we are. It's almost like having this city seal or something. I would like to bring us back to that point where we've got something that really says, hey, we are special, and this is us. And I think that's a good thing. Okay, moving on to scrapbooks.
I don't have any updates on
We-
that.
No,
I'd like to see if, this is a busy time, but, where I could have one or two people that would be interested in putting the things together. You know, I keep filing all this stuff, you know, but it's just a matter of getting all the paper and notebooks and all that kind of stuff, so.
I'm willing to volunteer myself in December.
Yeah.
But until I'm through
Until
the
you get
wedding
away.
and I can breathe,
Right.
I can't, and just so y'all know, my refrigerator went out too, so,
Oh.
so this is how it goes. So I am waiting for a refrigerator to get here this week before Thanksgiving. So,
Yeah.
it is what
Love
it is.
It's fun.
Love it.
It'll be interesting.
July.
This Thanksgiving might be a real interesting one.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
I'll help with you with that. I'm happy to help with that.
We can talk about a date at some point.
But if you guys want to work on that prior to
Yeah.
December and me not having a twitch, that would be okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else that would like to volunteer to work on that?
You know, I mean, if you wanna put it off into next year, I mean, my holidays are, I'm not gonna
Crazy.
volunteer.
Everybody's holiday.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
know,
volunteering now
it's
because
just
this is
normal.
the January, February timeframe.
Yeah.
If I get more.
And I will be rotated off the board, so that's, I know that this is
Yeah.
my delay too, but
Yeah,
anyway.
so anyway, I would
Yeah.
volunteer next year, but from now to the end of the year, I'm too busy.
It's on film. I'm gonna.
I
So.
might.
I might have more time.
I know how my,
You
those
can
months-
take the historian position next year.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not an urgent thing right now, that's.
Oh, yeah, scrambling backtrack. Okay, moving on to the Callahan House Advisory Report to the City Council. And so really what it is, Karen and I met, and Karen Reed and I met, and we went over basically what the past reports have looked like, and that's basically what we're gonna do, is stick to what the past reports have looked like and very much copy that. The only difference that we have done is we did with Karen Cruz's help, we did the questionnaire for the clubs. And we've gotten this back, and I would like for us all to sit down. Connie, you're on that as well. And I'm willing to, the week of the 14th is the only one that I really have any time to even look at this, guys. So I would like, if it works, and if it works, I'd like to get together and sit down and go through all of it. I have looked at what has been said, and some clubs wanted to fill them out individually. I met with 6 of the 7, and you got the one, and they wanted to just the one.
Right.
So basically, I'd like to take those surveys and bring them together, and then we're going to. I'm not quite sure how to do this, but I think that information needs to be submitted and held. Those surveys shouldn't just disappear or be thrown away. So that should be tally them, and then the surveys themselves should be saved. I'm not quite sure on that, but for the most part, they're very excited, and they had, because we had talked about bringing more clubs, I got some great responses back from a couple of the women that one of them's a teacher, and she would love to be able to bring her Girls of Science to be hosted here as a club. Now, but the big question that she had is, do we have Wi-Fi and the ability to do that? And I'm like,
There's a citywide.
we have Wi-Fi, we can do that. I think that's good. And I know that Kathy has very much been clear that she's concerned about bringing more clubs in. But I've spoken with Ben and with Jeff Friesner, and was assured that we could do that with staffing. And so that shouldn't be added onto Kathy's plate per se, but maybe included onto Jacqueline's or whatever city staff is been chosen to handle the clubs. I just think that we have the option and the ability to do that, and it's really what the house was intended for. And I think we need to hold true to what the intention of the house is. I mean, that's what the gift is. It wasn't just for the, and again, I'm speaking my personal opinion, and also what reading from what Thomas said in his letter in gifting this house to the women of Longmont, I think we do need to hold true to the mission in that sense that it is a gift, and that for women to meet, and if that includes, you know, like the book club had a couple of gentlemen in it and whatever else, I think that's great. But I think the intent is that it should be used, and that's why we're here. And we have the events in order to have the house open for these clubs to meet. This is, and I want to put forth to the board, you know, it always plays into the cost on what we can afford to do and what other people can afford to do. I think, you know, we've got to have a balance of how many clubs should be here. It can't be over the top to the point where it's not workable. But I think we should look at the number of events that we're hosting, that are revenue, and then what is a good measurable group of what we can handle, what's acceptable. And then, again, then we need to look at the process of who chooses the groups. How are they selected? Are they just, you know, if somebody raises their hand highest? I mean, that was one of the questions that was brought forth to me by a couple of the people of the club, and I said, well, that's a really good point. I don't know exactly. Maybe we should be putting up a selection process that they have to fill in an application, and we look at the application, and then we see what is.
Do we have that many people interested?
You wouldn't
Can we
believe
do that?
how many people brought forth and said, we didn't think it was an option because we thought all the club things were closed.
Well, and I do want to just reiterate that, you know, at the beginning of the meeting, there was money, 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 money. Where's the
Right.
money, money, money?
Right.
So that's one hand. And then there's the use part.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like there are designated group days,
Mm-hmm.
Because that allows for the revenue options that are very
Yes.
important for the
Very
historical
important.
preservation.
Absolutely.
And there's only so many hours in the day, and
Yeah.
maybe there's a slot from 2 to 4 that might be available. I'm just saying that out, but probably wouldn't fit for a STEM group of students. You know, so
Right.
you know, just be aware that there's this huge money, 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 use, push and pull going on, and that ultimately, I believe Karen has been tasked with balancing those two.
Kathy.
And
Kathy.
Sorry, Kathy.
Yes.
I meant to say
Taking
Kathy.
it back to Karen.
Yeah.
I am.
Karen wrote it.
Anyways,
Everybody's a Karen.
that-
true.
So, I think you have some really excellent questions, and I really feel most comfortable if Kathy was here to hear those portions. So I really just
So
request
agree.
that you
I
table
agree,
it till she's here.
Oh, fine, but it can't be just no. And that's what I've heard from Kathy, that no
Ultimately,
groups.
correct me if I'm wrong, but the answer can be no. Because she's been hired to do that piece for the city and has the responsibility for that piece. And this is an advisory board
Yeah.
whose input is very important. And at the end of the day, it's on the staff shoulders to do that piece.
Yes.
Except if, and just 1 minute, except if you're looking at, and you really look at the calendar dates and how much staffing is really going on, there are openings. Just like you said, it could be from 2 to 4 and may not be available for certain groups. It's fine. But it can't just be, no, I think there's a workable option. And I'm not talking, we've gone from 33 clubs, and I'm not saying that we're going back to 33 clubs, but it can't be just 7 or a certain person's daughter's book club, because she happens to, it works for, and she can't just choose and pick and choose which ones are allowed. I think it should be open to everybody and not just certain groups because they their friends. It
And I think
doesn't
that's an
work that way.
excellent point. I think that also we're having some major renovations happening next
Yes,
year.
I agree.
And that to have a ton of groups added in,
Mhm.
when you're going to displace them for renovation,
Yeah.
the timing's interesting.
Yeah. This is why
Yeah.
we put the club affair off. But again, I don't think it should be off the table to discuss it and try to come up with a solution or a working solution, so when we get to that point, after the renovations are there, we can put it in place. And there's gotta be a happy medium somewhere that okay, is it 10 clubs, is it 15? I don't know, but the discussion, I think, should take place and positively and try to come up with options. So, okay, if we can only work these certain dates and that's it. But I was also brought forth that that's why we have city staffing, that we can do this. And then we are an advisory board, but we've also been a fundraising board in the sense for the house. We've had the ice cream social and other things. This is one of the things that if we want to choose, because it has been stated by Kathy's, clubs do not pay for themselves. I got that. Clubs don't pay for themselves. But they fulfill what the charter is of the gift, and that's key. It is very key, and it's stated what this was given for. It was never given as, oh, just a wedding venue. It was never given as that. So it's gotta be balanced, and I'm sorry, Ann, I took up your time, please.
I just wanna say too, you're mentioning the charter, and obviously they gave this to us in 1938. They didn't give us an endowment to pay for it.
Yeah.
So we have to use, and the city is managing it now, but we have to have revenue. And
I know.
weddings and dinners and stuff bring in
Exception.
revenue. Clubs don't. And so, and also, they gave it as a club place for the women, which it's supported by, not completely, but it is supported by tax dollars, which are paid by men and women. And so I think we need to say times have changed and get away from this, it's for the women. Because, if it, really, we could have a lawsuit by a men's group and say, hey, we could lose our, so we've got to be careful, we've got to change with the times and say that, okay, yeah, we understand why the Callahans donated, there was nothing for women back then, it was 1938, we just walked out of a depression, times were different, I think there were 7,000 people in Longmont at that time. There's 100,000 people in Longmont now, and we're a thriving city. But, we have to make something work here that, yeah, we want to keep it as a visit, that people can use it, but we also don't want it to drive into the hole because we have so many clubs, we can't do revenue generating events.
I agree.
I think we
It's
need to
a-
say
it-
something.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that everyone is in agreement with there is a balance that's necessary for this house, revenue generating and meeting the purpose of the gift. And I think given that that balance has to occur, and obviously the city will understand, all right, there are certain days that are best for revenue generating events. That might also tumble into the middle of the week rather than just weekends, it's fine. But there's also an importance and value to creating criteria for selecting clubs that will meet here. And I think that that's probably a component I think you're trying to address, is that we need to probably come up with some criteria for selection.
And is this something that scheduling a work session, that's where you're going with that? That's probably a place to discuss that. If we're going to come up with a criteria, and if so, what is it? An application
And then-
form, whatever that may be.
And bear
We're
in
not
mind,
gonna
it can't be too selective, again, if it's supported by tax dollars. We have
Right.
to respect everybody who's paying those
Absolutely
taxes, so we
right.
can't, if we're gonna set criteria and eliminate a certain group of people who are contributing to the upkeep of this, we have to be very careful there.
Right?
I don't disagree, but I also want to I think we need to historically recognize what the gift was. And I disagree. I think there's a lot of men's organizations that have groups and meet and certain things. And I know that The same goes for some of the Latino groups and the Latino youth. We're not excluding anyone. I think anybody, any ethnicity can apply. I think that we just need to have some criteria, and I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think we forget the past either.
Yeah, I'm not saying forget it, I'm just saying we have to be inclusive.
Right.
I'm way for being inclusive. We already have the book club with the gentlemen and others, so we have wedding venues, and we don't exclude anybody from walking in these doors. So I don't think that we need to bring that as a major point, but that's, again, that's a discussion that needs to be decided by the board on what the criteria is. I think personally this comes down to, we need to set up a working group that will work on this, who's willing to volunteer. Or should this be put off to
Next year.
Well, what do you think?
Yeah, so none of you guys
As
are
the
wrong.
guy.
Nobody's wrong, right? In this discussion, for sure, is one thing that's clear to me. But there's a balance. I think picking a number is the wrong way to go. I think the balance has to do with availability,
Okay.
because you have different puzzle pieces fit in different ways at different times. So 2 years from now, it might be a different group. It fits a little differently. You can add another club. So be cautious about a number. I think we're on our city end open to discussion about how to get more clubs in. And we have had a little bit of movement on staffing. Finally, I mean, staffing has been a nightmare, but we have had a little bit of movement, so things are starting to open up. As far as, or at least I hope they're starting to open up. It seems that way.
Mhm.
And the one thing that that scares me a little bit is when you talk about criteria for a club. I'm okay with if you have 3 spots to fill and you've got 5 clubs, you have to have some way of choosing.
Right.
That makes sense. I just be really cautious about what that criteria is as far as that equitable offering. So that's where I
Very
would.
open.
And this is, I think it leads right into exactly what you're talking about, is getting together and talking about those things. So
May I speak to that just a little bit? And in that criteria, I envision, because for grant writing purposes, you want to diversify the clubs. You want to show all the different types of clubs that are meeting, and also how they are providing benefit to the community in all those different ways. So it's a little more complicated than, it's not a number. And it is not is it men or women? It is, what are they about? What do they do for themselves? What do they do for the community and beyond? That's what I'm focused on, and solely for, the purposes of making this
it would
look
strike
really
me, a criteria
proper.
would strike me as a good one might be something along the way. Does this club contribute as a, I don't even want to say nonprofit, but as a volunteer, as a philanthropy to the community? That would strike me as a solid criteria.
That's what I'm talking about.
Just again, be cautious. I'm not arguing, not saying no on anything. It's a good discussion.
I think thank you, and I appreciate the discussion, and that is key. So coming up with a thing, and the other comment that was said to me by you and both Jeff, is that Kathy is supposed to be scheduling and doing stuff, but she doesn't have to host every single event. That's what we have staff for. And that was what was stated to me, and I'm taking you on that. And I understand staffing is difficult. So as a burden wise, this shouldn't fall on Kathy to set up and do all the clubs. It should actually be part of staffing. And that is, again, a balance, that she doesn't have to be here for everything. And I understand where she's coming from, because I'm very much of that type of person that if I sign up, I'm doing it, I'm gonna follow through, I wanna make it handled. But I think I think that's one of the things that her job is to schedule and handle the overall production of the house, correct? Is that my understanding of that position?
That is not her only job, but
But-
that is one of her.
That's one of her jobs. Am I misunderstanding? I guess I want to make sure that we as a board have a clarification of what that entails, because again, I don't want anybody overwhelmed. I just think that trying to have a better informed, so when we're doing this, we're coming and looking at it from up here, not micro, to oversee the big picture of what we're doing as we're moving forward.
And I think for the first time, we actually have one new staff member who has come on board in the last 2 years.
Wow.
So I'm not trying to, I'm just sharing with you that staffing and finding there's a desire to have more than a warm body here.
Yeah.
We want to have a very professional and capable host or hostess mentality when they're here, even for our clubs and things like that. So it has not been easy because we don't offer 40 hours a week of benefits to do that. And the times are inconsistent. And finding somebody who is able to come and during school drop-off times or during other parts of life has been difficult. So we, as Ben mentioned, it's starting to loosen up. We've got one amazing staff member new on staff, and we hope to add to that because there is immediate demand for it. So it's coming.
Thank you. But sharing that information is so crucial because, it's hard if we aren't understanding exactly where you guys are coming from because, we're making assumptions and again, assumptions are not always the best thing. So if we have informed information, I think it helps in the discussion. So again, we're gonna go ahead, so we're getting a little off track of the agenda, but I appreciate the information, Karen.
There's one quick question
Yes.
for clarification. Who does the service book clubs? Is it Jacqueline?
Jacqueline.
It can be either or, and both have life.
Exactly.
Okay,
That
I
hits
just-
us. So
I
it's,
wanted to clarify.
well, and we haven't, to my knowledge, we haven't canceled a club due to life happening for one of the others. So if something happens, someone else comes in
Fills it in.
and covers. So
I was here for one night. My son was here for one night.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
Super.
So you've done clubs too, Ben?
Oh, I was here one night.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
He
go
gets
as far as.
So we can put you on the schedule?
Okay.
Kidding.
But see,
meaning that
that-
city
that
staff,
helps.
it's not just the Callahan staff.
Right.
So I think a good thing for us to have then is, before we start talking about how many more meetings, is what are our resources available? Let's get a good idea of how many hours of staffing we have per week, before we start scheduling, I should say per month.
But they'd have to be trained so well to take over.
So if we know what our resources are, and we know what our
That's a lot.
currently use of those resources.
Like,
then-
where's everything? Open up the house, do this, that.
but Jacqueline does a lot of that. I mean,
Yeah,
she
she
does
does.
a lot of that. And I mean, she was here for all the clubs when I was here and doing all of it, knew exactly, and she handles the
And
clubs.
it's a learning curve to get someone else trained.
Yeah.
The new
Yes.
person, her name is Betsy, is being trained. She's going to be at 2 winter venues this year.
Good.
And if it's anything like other areas that I've done with the city, it takes a good solid year
It does.
to get someone underneath, ready to move in a different direction. So I'm just assuring you that it's happening. They're very pleased with the results. And they still have their eyes open for other people who have that very odd, flexible niche to do a great job.
It's a unique asking for people to do it. So that's good to know. And again, thank you. But I like the aspect that, okay, we've got somebody. So that's a start. And very good point that we look at scheduling and what works. And I think that's key.
Got a question.
Yes.
And this is more for Ben and Sue Ellen. I think if we were looking at going back to the reports and the questionnaire kind of thing, and scheduling and purpose criteria, are there any criteria or matrices for usage of like the senior center and the different, I know public library has their meeting room criteria and things like that we could look at or be aware of, or it may be online for that matter. You know,
Well-
if you're wanting to rent a room at the museum or rent a room or whatever.
No.
Okay.
I think short answer would be no. We certainly have suitability. You know,
Right,
each
right.
facility has suitability.
Right.
I think where you guys are going though is more of a suitability between A and B, like a choosing between this group and this group sort of thing. And, you know, how appropriate are they? And again, I don't know what the demand is and what we have available on all those things. So the short answer to that is no, because we manage rentals in a
Right.
different way.
Right.
You know, are they suitable for our facility for what we generally do? You know, we wouldn't have a pot shop come and do a seminar at the Memorial Building, for example.
Right.
We're not there yet. Maybe mushrooms after last.
Yeah, exactly.
But that it's so the answer is no
Yeah,
to that.
okay.
But I'm good with where you guys are going on this.
I think the
it's-
format of a matrix definitely exists, so if you guys
Yeah.
have your criteria and want to give the weight to certain areas, there are definitely forms and
Yeah.
things, scoring matrices
Yeah.
out there to insert your criteria into.
Is there a specific area that we should look to pull those matrices from?
You know, I think if you guys set together your areas that you'd like to score on, you know, at these later meetings, finding the format to put them in will be pretty easy peasy.
Okay,
So-
We can certainly help with
Yeah.
okay, it's good to know. Well, so that was my other issue, so in going forth, because this is gonna be put to city council, do we want to, ask for a, what should I say? I wanna say grant?
Time slot.
Or no, not time slot, but that is on my mind slot to get on the city council agenda. But no, do we want to ask if they want to support us in the sense of giving us like a grant for somebody that is less fortunate, that would like to meet here and would like to cover that cost? That was one of the things that I was thinking and rolling around in my mind, because I know they have supported other groups and organizations that way, by giving funds to support a specific view of what the council's agenda is. Did
Is
we
this
want to
getting kind of
ask?
specific right now, or
Yes.
we're getting way ahead of ourselves?
I agree. Yeah, that's
talking
something we
about-
could certainly talk about in a work session,
Mhm.
but I think that's
Yeah, I
way
have
too-
no knowledge to go on with.
Yeah,
And-
yeah, and it's, I think we could talk about that sort of thing in a work session.
Yeah, but yeah.
Okay,
I think
so
we're
that's-
putting too much out there right now.
Right.
All right, moving on then. So is there any other questions or concerns that you want to go in regards to the report to city council? Anybody?
Is the work session going to be scheduled?
Yes, that was one of the things, the works, scheduling it was, the week of the 14th. Anything open for you guys?
Is there a month that you know, is it November or December? It's not
November.
clear.
I'm sorry, November.
Didn't you already have that work session last month?
Maureen and I met and did some preliminary work.
Oh,
on it,
okay,
and
I didn't,
started.
because I don't know what was discussed at that one, so. or
Okay.
what was-
Yeah, we,
Well, I stated that
yeah,
I
That they're
did
gonna
state,
follow the-
and that we were gonna follow basically what we
The
had,
same.
reports have been done in the past.
yeah, the same format that the
Same
other
format.
reports have done, and I have started to collate the information. I am doing, I went back and listened to the board meeting, and it is 2020, 21, and 22 that we decided to do. So kind of can't do anything until December is over.
Okay, I just.
But yeah, I've started to format it, put it together and get the statistics together.
And I think at the last meeting, we decided we would use what Kathy has on her computer, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I'm using her reports.
we're using most of Kathy's information.
That's all, yeah, we talked about it last time.
But there's not gonna be a complete coalition of the full year until December. And so we're working on it.
Yeah.
But if we could go ahead and meet and go through the, all the questionnaires and collate those, in the sense of, what their answers were, that would be great. Is there any way that you can meet the week of the 14th, anybody? What day is around for you?
That's next week.
Next week you're talking about?
Yeah.
That's what we decorated.
The 14th is the day that we're meeting here to decorate the house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything that week.
I'm pretty open as well. I prefer not to do it on Thursday morning, if at all possible, at the Bible study that day.
Oh, absolutely. You've got your set things and I get that.
Yeah.
So,
But really, the rest of the week is pretty open.
um,
It's up to you. You've got the goofy schedule.
It's very
Oh, Scott, pardon me, let me rephrase it. You've got the wedding schedule.
actually, so Thursday's out for you, so I can either meet on Tuesday or Wednesday. Friday's bad, but
Tuesday is decorating day, isn't it?
Monday
Monday.
is. But the question is, I don't know when the house is open.
I don't know when Kathy will be here or Jacqueline.
That's,
Well, let's
okay,
just,
worst comes worst, if something happens,
Hang on a minute, check the club meeting text, is that on that, thing that she
Yeah.
sent us, right?
yes, it
Right.
is.
Oh.
And I did not bring it.
Got it.
and
I got
if, we could probably meet when they're meeting in a
Right.
different
That's what I was
space.
thinking.
Right,
like,
we can meet down here. They usually meet upstairs.
Not all of them, no, the bridge clubs meet
Right,
yeah.
upstairs.
It depends.
Right.
We could also maybe
Yeah,
meet in
so-
the auto house too,
Tuesdays.
so,
Alright, so that says third Tuesday. Oh, is that the third
That
Tuesday?
would be the fourth.
Yeah, that would be the
No,
third
that'd be the
Tuesday.
third Tuesday.
Okay, so the
Third
third
Tuesdays.
Tuesday, Embroider and More is here from 10 till 2. So
and they're upstairs, so
Yeah.
we could,
that could work.
We could meet here Tuesday the 15th at 10 o'clock.
let's do that.
Okay.
And then we're not,
Tuesday the 15th at 10 a.m. in the dining room.
yes.
Alright.
And that's you and Connie and I.
Yes,
Anybody else is welcome.
yes. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're meeting at 10 a.m. then on Tuesday the 15th. And anybody's welcome. Okay, now the board applicant interviews, 10 minutes. Basically, that's was supposed to take place today, was it not?
We talked about the
We're supposed to set a date.
availability of that, but we didn't have details about how many people to be interviewers. The city council had, or the city clerk had suggested 1 to 2,
And 3 was fine.
and 3 would work.
3 would work. So
Okay.
because that was, I feel like that was your guys' goal, was
It was.
Yeah.
Or in the state.
When's the drop dead date? Has to be done by the 20, what,
the end of the month.
and 30th?
Yeah.
I think it's actually the first, but what day is the first?
That's a Thursday.
So it's the 30th.
Right.
Okay, that's a Wednesday.
It's the end of the month.
So originally, we were going to consider doing it after the board meeting. Did that not get
No.
scheduled?
That is
And
not
then-
scheduled.
Do you just need the 3 people to be involved so that they can then work as a group to schedule it from there, because at that point it just would be based on the availability of the 3 representatives and the candidates. So
Correct.
do we have those 2 people selected?
No,
I think in the last meeting, Karen Reed and both
Volunteered.
Yeah, we
wanted to
volunteered.
participate.
And we thought you might be, since you get an off year, like you're ready to jump in there.
And I would be glad to do that, if I'm here.
yeah, Connie wasn't here at the last meeting to ask, so
Right.
that was one of the,
We were hoping you would be
Yeah.
willing to be in there.
I don't have it in front of me how many there are.
I believe it was 6.
6?
Oh, there are 6 now,
6
okay.
people per 4
That's what I
So we
was
say
saying.
15 to 20 minutes a piece, so that's,
Well, you're one, Marie, and Candy is one, and I imagine those 2 interviews go very quickly.
yeah.
Would you guys be okay if, just have Kathy reach out to Connie and Karen and coordinate the,
And Ann.
and I'm sorry, I looked this way and I don't know what name I said, I apologize.
Yeah.
To then just coordinate
Yes.
the interviews from there.
Absolutely, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And Jeff has asked that he and myself also be invited to those.
Oh,
I will do
wonderful.
everything I can to be there. Jeff we'll see.
Wonderful.
He's pretty busy.
Yeah.
Oh, and tiny side note, I don't know if you guys know that Jeff was officially promoted to director of the department, the new department, soon to be named someday.
Yeah.
and what is it?
It includes recreation, library, and museum,
Oh,
and
wow.
golf.
Wow. Wow.
Everything that flows underneath those.
Yeah.
Pretty busy guy.
that's
Triple his
huge.
salary.
Is he still doing all the stuff with the senior stuff too, or do we have
Seniors
somebody?
are under the other new department, which includes children and youth resources and
Senior services.
children and youth resources, senior services. There's a housing component in
Housing
there,
authority.
and there's one other.
Wow.
So that's a different department that is an open job. The director for that.
Because last I
In our
heard he was
perfect
doing
world-
that too.
He is doing that also right now. So it's still all together in community services because there's no person for that job. And we're still working on a senior center manager. I know we're off track, so sorry about that. But
No,
it's just
it's-
information, yeah.
No, this is a lot of information, but the bottom line is that's a lot.
We wish senior services was with us, honestly, but that wasn't decided that way, so. But that's okay. We work so closely with them that it's good.
Because it's like this, how do you split that?
We don't. We've been apart, but there's nothing that changes for us. Nothing in our relationship with senior services changes. In fact, I'm excited about growth in that area.
Well, congratulations to Jeff, it's well deserved.
I believe so too.
So I have a quick question.
Yes.
Can somebody tell me when those interviews are gonna happen? Because I'm gonna
Yeah, we have
wait
to
until
select them.
after, then to reach out to the prior board members. Like I've mentioned, I didn't wanna.
I don't know.
It's
So we
Kathy's
have to
gonna
figure that out.
Kathy's gonna
Yeah.
report it.
Yeah.
Contact her immediately
Can
on that, so.
Kathy, can you pass it along to ask her to just let me know what day they've selected so that I can wait till after then to reach out to the prior board members to ask them about her for the, or should I just go ahead and
Oh, I see what you're
call
saying.
prior board members?
I don't
See what
think
I'm
it'll
saying?
be
I
before the
didn't wanna-
14th.
I didn't want to
Oh wait, we're talking the
make
second.
anyone uncomfortable or
The second.
feel like they're obligated or expected. Does that make sense?
I'm not understanding what you're talking about, I'm sorry.
She doesn't want to have a conflict about asking the board members to help with the Santa open house on the 2nd. If they're interviewing and then they, for some reason, are not selected or something along those lines, she doesn't
Or
want
feel
it as a,
obliged.
or feel obliged to do it.
Obligated. I
So-
don't want.
Do you wanna ask after it's the interview's
After the
concluded?
interviews.
Okay, that's what I got.
Doesn't that seem
Yeah.
appropriate?
My question is, how many people do we really need a lot of help?
Kathy mentioned 2 or 3.
Really?
in the
Why
last
so
meeting.
many?
I don't
We've
understand.
never
why.
done that before.
Well, we've had high school helpers, volunteers, and really it's more to man and watch the hallway.
The stairs,
Stairs.
to keep them off the stairs.
And there's. that's
Can we
not a
plan ahead to
bad
just
thing.
put a velvet rope across that
Yeah,
stairway
but
there?
they
and
still
slide
don't
out?
under it.
If you have
I
a
don't
sign
know.
hanging that says
They
no
do.
entrances. We've never had one that had a sign, and I've worked, I've never, they're not gonna.
up there, yeah.
But to
But
have
it
those.
wasn't.
See a road.
But we can put it right here, they don't even need to go into the kitchen, you know?
Well, I think that's a great suggestion, but, you know, and I will never turn away a warm body that's willing to be here and be part of it. And it's a good event, and people walk away feeling good about it, so.
Yeah, but that doesn't answer,
Well,
I'm
having
gonna
that-
pose it as a question, can we block off that stairway?
Yes.
I mean,
It's
so if
what
there's a
happens.
fire, people can run down it, but a
that's-
velvet rope,
It's what happened on the last, at the art walk,
yeah, we had a sign up
that
there.
there was a velvet.
And the same thing
thing
upstairs, on
across-
that stairway
Was
upstairs on the door.
Put some block across the stairway. I
It has to be a velvet rope
Oh.
because due
It's-
to
it should
fire
put it-
hazards.
Yeah, something they can actually can get through, they have to,
Across
but
it is what it was.
if we put a sign on it that says no admittance, you know, emergency only, that type of thing. And the same thing with the stairway upstairs, there's a doorway, we could put emergency only on it, no admittance otherwise. So obviously if there's a fire, they can go down it, probably shouldn't. But, no, I think, I've worked that too, and it's impossible for one person to try to, you got people coming through, they wanna go up there, and you have no sign saying they can't.
Right.
I think we put a sign on the doors.
Sign-
Exactly,
the
we
sign
need to
is
put some
good,
signage.
too.
I mean,
It is.
We need to decide and do that.
Okay, then let's make a decision.
But to have an additional 2 to 3 people isn't a bad idea because, Jen, it's your birthday. It's likely you're
Well, it
going to
didn't
have a
make any
surprise.
difference last
They're
year,
gonna go ahead and steal you away. It'll be nice to have the extra coverage
That's
there in that room.
No.
Also, in the
No, that's a
hallway.
problem now, how you handled that last year was bad. So,
Anyway,
yeah,
having additional help.
and we
Isn't
did
it
because
bad?
I had somebody take my place.
Yeah, I
And
came
Kathy had already
upstairs.
told me to leave, and you told my son, who had flown here as a surprise, to go away. Come back later, your mom's not done. It's just, it was a bad situation. It was bad. So,
Well, thanks for sharing that with me.
Well, I didn't realize it was your birthday. Is it your birthday? The December 2nd is your
yes, it
birthday?
is, and I doubt anybody's gonna fly in, but I haven't seen my kids for 2 years, so it was big. We are having a family vacation, so in December, somewhere else, so I don't think anybody's gonna fly in, but I have no control.
Oh,
You know, things happen. And it's not like it's an hourly job that you have to be here. But it sure seemed like the last year, so. But as far as having people, extra people, if you want to, if somebody doesn't get tired of moseying around, though.
I think to just jump on that, one thing to remember when we're bringing people in to work is always respect their individuality and their needs. So if you bring somebody in, if, you know, like what happened to you with the family member surprising you, that should not be turned away. And I always
He should have
respect.
been set up to talk
Yeah, or
to
say,
me.
yeah, go talk to your mom, you know,
I'm
that's
like, where are you?
Wow, I'm sorry, I wasn't here. I didn't know
Yeah.
any of that.
So yeah, but just treat everybody with respect. And, you know, we all have lives too. So yeah, we're gonna be here to help, but if we have a family emergency, if we have something, we have to respect that.
Okay, so maybe
So having additional help isn't a
bad thing?
bad thing.
Right.
It isn't a bad thing. So as soon as we know to schedule it, because my life's very complicated, the sooner I know when it's gonna be scheduled, the better off we're gonna be. I thought it was gonna be today, and I wasn't told anything different.
The other thing we could say is the 3 of us on the selection board, we could say that is not a criteria. We'll just agree on that right now, whether they help with
Absolutely, it's
Christmas
not.
or not. To me, it's totally not a criteria.
Totally not.
So we'll just take away that doubt right away.
Okay, that would be helpful.
So you can go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I raise my
That's-
hand, it's,
Whether they
it's
can,
different, yeah.
we'd love to have them if they are willing and available and they'd like to come.
It's,
but
yeah, and in fact, there
there's
won't be a question, we won't even know,
No, we're not even gonna know.
yeah, we won't even know.
None of
who
our
it is.
business.
So let's put it that way.
And Maureen will follow up with those interviews right away.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And there's no problem with sitting on
With what?
the, there's no problem with that. from the city standpoint, that we're probably going to reach out to prior board
No,
members who are
no,
going to be
there's not. I mean,
interviewing.
I understand your thought there, but as far as that goes, no.
Okay. Okay.
So Ellen, do you have the names of the new applicants, the other 4? It doesn't
I
matter.
don't have all of them.
No, it
I,
doesn't matter.
my impression was two were community members with no prior knowledge of them.
Something like that.
And the other ones had some sort of association in the past with the Callahan House. So, and I,
That's no big deal.
so 2 fresh, 2
Yeah.
who have touched the Callahan before.
Ah, good way.
And there's 6, is the way I go? Okay, moving on to new business, the Christmas decor packet. It's really kind of hard not having Kathy here to know when she had thought about that, so.
Put that off to December.
Exactly, I think we can table that to December.
Oh, pack up, I thought it was
Decide
pack
that.
up. I was like, what is this?
What is, no, it's pack up for,
Why don't we say take down?
undecorating the tree.
Yeah, we could, yeah,
Put it on December.
put it on December's agenda. Okay, we already have done other business. Future agenda items are the open houses.
I have one other business one. I still, Karen, I may have lost it. I don't have the docent document for the Callahan House tour. Was hoping you could resend that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other business that we need to discuss? I apologize.
Yeah, I have something, I brought it up every year, but, okay. We've talked about the Christmas open, we call it an open house, but technically it's only for children and their parents. And we do a lot of work decorating. And, you know, a lot of people just can't walk in off the street. You know, we have reservations for the, and I brought it up before, but I'm just gonna bring it up one more time, is that if we would move Santa to the carriage house, decorate it up, and then have the house beautifully decorated and have that open for an open house, we would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We would have the kids seeing Santa Claus in a cute little North Pole, and we would have a decorated house that we could actually use as an open house, not just for a select group of people with
I
kids.
think that's a wonderful
I think it's
idea.
a fabulous idea. I have had
Oh, they're
people
like right
walk
here
up to me and say,
I'm
what's this open house,
sorry.
I can't come?
I
You know, they
think
wanna
that's
come
a
see it.
wonderful
Because we
idea.
could decorate that like a little North Pole little
Yeah.
section. So I'm just gonna throw it out
I
there.
like it.
I think we could talk
For
about it.
Santa's workshop.
A Santa's
Right,
workshop.
exactly.
I think that
Oh,
would
that's
be
a cute idea.
fabulous idea. I do.
I've been trying for 5 years
I
to get someone to say that.
do.
love
I
the
think that's a
idea.
great idea. Why don't we consider that for next year?
That's what we
Because
should do next
the
year.
numbers have been so
And we could get
impressive.
those, I've seen restaurants downtown using them, those heaters.
Uh-huh.
We could put a few stationed along the driveways for the poor little munchkins who have to freeze. And I know I'm kind of a Grinch when it comes to kids. It's like, put a coat on.
No. Because they
My
don't
mother
wear
always told
It's
me.
called parenting.
Yeah.
Let's call parenting. Put a coat on and don't wear shorts.
Yes.
I don't think kids get cold.
Yeah, they don't get cold
Adults do.
anyway.
Yeah,
You
they
can
don't
see
think
them
about
walking
But it would
around.
open the house more to an open house then.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Hey,
I do. I think that's a
So if we
brilliant
could
idea.
help into that for next year, I think.
What do you think?
It sounds like a good idea to me, so yeah, let's.
And
let's
if we
discuss it.
can kill it's a win-win. I like win-wins. That's
Me
that's
too.
great.
I love it.
I'm sorry, and I
absolutely
never
great
heard that
idea.
suggestion.
Well, I usually just throw it out and it gets kind of nixed. I just thought I'm gonna bring it up one more time and push a little harder.
Yeah.
So-
I think that we should put that in for future agenda, and we're gonna specifically state it that Santa open house, in Auto House.
Well, and even if that doesn't become available, to acknowledge the need for a adult-only
Right.
purview through the
But,
building.
you know, it's
yeah.
getting people to staff it is hard enough and everything, so if we
Yeah.
have them all here for it, plus.
Right.
Well, that, right.
I was just trying to,
Great.
yeah.
I think it's a great idea, and we'll put it specifically under the open houses, to be discussed in January.
And a couple of things, like with the kids waiting for Santa Claus, I know last year I spent, quite a bit of time saying, don't jump on the furniture.
Right.
do this.
Yeah,
don't
we
do
did,
that. I was
absolutely, we did.
Police, you know, because they're
They're
waiting.
kids.
They're kids and they're waiting, whereas there they'd be up in line in the cold, and when they came in here, they'd be, well, grateful for warmth.
Right.
And the gazebo could be used as a
Yeah.
little
Little
check-in
warming.
stations
Well,
or a little
honestly,
warming.
What a great
I
idea.
think, that opens a lot of possibility, and kids do better outside, getting some fresh air and whatever else.
Well,
I
they
think
feel
it's a-
like it's winter.
Yeah, but they're still gonna be on a schedule.
And it's still magical
schedule.
and special.
Right,
Yeah.
schedule.
I
Yeah, they would be scheduled, but the
Yeah, so
open
they're not
house,
standing in big long
Right,
line
right,
for an hour.
But then this is open and we can do the
we
open.
could treat this like a normal open house.
I do, I think it's fabulous.
And then we feel like all our decorating is being really appreciated.
Actually,
Yeah,
yeah, being
I think it's
enjoyed.
fabulous. I'm glad you brought it up. Any other additions that need to be added?
In addition to that, I know in past years, we have been open on the same day as the
oh, there was something
Christmas
else going
open
on,
house. You know, that there's usually
The open house
the
tours?
symphony ones.
Yeah.
When they do the open houses, you know, in the
yeah.
neighborhood.
Tour of homes?
Yeah,
Oh, the tour of homes,
or
that's
something
right.
like that. Yeah,
Oh, that'd be
and
fun.
we've done that. We've just been open, you know, not
Yeah.
part of the tour.
Was that planned or just an accident that it happened?
No, we did
Planned
it
it?
intentionally
Oh.
because of the open houses. People
Right.
were out and about
People go
anyway.
out looking at
And it
homes.
wasn't like we were ticketed part of that open house tour.
Just happened to, yeah.
But we coordinated with it, and that was really handy. Yeah, but at
Is
least
there
the
a-
house was open.
Yeah.
You know, when people were out and about, so.
Was that an additional event then that we did?
Yeah, we counted it as our open house,
Okay.
Christmas open house, but, it wasn't on the agenda with this symphonies.
Right.
you know, for-
Yeah, it was within.
Okay, I think that's,
houses. Anyway,
wow,
that's
if
just
we,
past.
if we
That's
can
been-
schedule something, but I do like how the Santa thing has happened, and I think we've had such a great response with it, that again, the possibility, depending on what the numbers and how fast it sells out, we might consider doing more than one, and I know, again, it's a busy schedule. But I love the idea of just doing the one for all and getting it done, but that's just a personal opinion again.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we've got the club affair that we were talking about to look at in January. And again, I understand that we're gonna have to look with when all the work's being done. This is just a moving forethought, looking forward type of thing. So is there anything else that needs to be added onto future agenda items that anybody can see? Okay, seeing none, I guess we're on to adjournment, ladies.
It's 9:56, I'm adjourned.
All in, second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Well, let's hope that Kathy's feeling better.
Yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed.